Mount Merapi, located in Indonesia's western Sumatra, erupted, sending an ash column 1.5 kilometers into the sky. Mount Merapi is one of the most active volcanoes in Indonesia that killed about 24 climbers in 2023. We'll leave you with these images. Thanks for watching.
Slovakia plans to cull up to 350 brown bears, nearly a quarter of the country's total population, after officials confirmed a bear killed a man in central Slovakia last weekend. Rescue teams found the 59-year-old's body near the town of Detva after he did not return from a walk in the woods. Officials say he had injuries consistent with the bear attack and found signs of a nearby den. The government has since declared a special state of emergency in 55 of Slovakia's 79 districts, allowing direct orders to kill bears considered a threat to public safety. Prime Minister Robert Fico says the situation has become unacceptable and that people should not have to be afraid to walk in the woods. Slovakia estimates it has roughly 1,300 brown bears. The country's environment minister says the government wants to reduce the bear population to what it calls a sustainable level, about 800 bears, though some researchers say the sustainable number is closer to 1,270. Conservation groups say the plan goes too far and may violate European Union laws, which only allow bears to be killed in specific cases, usually after confirmed attacks. Environmental advocates argue the government is bypassing protections and ignoring long-term strategies like managing food waste, limiting game baiting, and educating the public. Bear sightings are more common in recent years, especially on social media, where videos show bears wandering into towns or scavenging near homes. Experts say those clips can heighten fear and put pressure on officials to act, even though most bear encounters are not dangerous. The European Commission has not said whether Slovakia's plan violates EU rules, but the move is already fueling a wider debate across Europe about how to balance wildlife conservation with public safety and political pressure. For more unbiased
Shifting focus now to the United States. Weeks after U.S. President Donald Trump delayed a ban of the Chinese-owned video sharing app TikTok, has returned to Apple and Google's U.S. app stores and can be downloaded by millions of American users who will be able to update the app again. However, with the TikTok ban deadline, which was set for April 5 looming, there are a lot of question marks about what lies ahead. The White House is currently considering a deal to work out the app's legal hassles. Back in January, the app temporarily went dark, and the options before its owner, ByteDance, were laid out loud and clear. Either sell it to a non-Chinese buyer or face a ban in America. Due to concerns over national security, TikTok has been charged with a series of offenses of sharing U.S. user data, a charge it categorically denied. And on the 20th of January, Donald Trump signed an executive order delaying the law's enforcement by 75 days. And since then, TikTok has been struggling to find a buyer, reportedly, even as Trump seems to be reconsidering to extend the 75-day delay. He is positive that a buyer will be found. Listen in.
Will you extend, if a TikTok deal is not made on the timeline you gave, will you extend that?
Probably, yeah.
You will? Okay.
I think, look, we have a lot of interest in TikTok. And China is going to play a role. And so hopefully China will approve of the deal. But they're going to play a role. But we have a lot of interest in TikTok.
How long will you extend it and how close are you to a deal?
Well, we'll see. But if I need, right now we have at least another month. So we don't need an extension. But if I needed an extension, I'd probably get it extended.
And with the April 5 deadline nearing, bidders for the social media site are piling up, among which is popular e-commerce brand Amazon, which has reportedly put in a last-minute bid to acquire all of TikTok. The bid apparently came via an offer letter addressed to Vice President J.D. Vance and Howard Lutnick, the U.S. Commerce Secretary. It's not clear at this point how seriously Amazon's bid is being taken, but it's not just Amazon. Earlier reports emerged that TikTok could be acquired by none other than Tesla CEO Elon Musk, after Trump suggested that he was open to Musk buying the ByteDance-owned application if he wanted to do so. However, Musk refuted these reports, saying that he was not interested in the application, adding that he does not use the short video app personally and was not familiar with the app's format, reportedly. This by no means discards the app's immense popularity world over, despite it cooking up several controversies that prompted many countries from banning its operations, including India. As of March 2025, TikTok has over 1.58 billion monthly active users, with its largest audience base in the US with over 135 million users. As part of its current standing, according to a report by the Financial Times, the White House came close to approving a plan that would allow a group of investors to buy a stake in TikTok's US operations, but with no decisive mandate as of now. TikTok's future hangs in the air. So the question is, can TikTok be saved from a ban, or will it meet its end should it fail to find a buyer within the stipulated deadline? Only time will tell.
Back and forth between the Trump administration and officials in the state of Maine isn't slowing down, with the U.S. Department of Agriculture now deciding to pause federal funding for some school programs in response to Maine's alleged violations of Title IX. The department's secretary, Brooke Rollins, sent a letter to Democratic Maine Governor Janet Mills Wednesday, writing, quote, "You cannot openly violate federal law against discrimination in education and expect federal funding to continue unabated." Rollins says funding will be impacted for certain administrative and technological operations in schools. Adding school lunch programs, which are funded by the USDA, will not be impacted by the freeze. For Maine to continue receiving funding, Rollins says the state will have to demonstrate compliance with Title IX's protection of female student athletes. The Trump administration launched several investigations into Maine's compliance with Title IX over transgender athletes' participation in girls' and women's sports, following a public dispute between President Trump and Mills over the issue. The Maine Department of Education, the Maine Principals Association, and a high school were each found to be in violation. The state could face additional penalties next week after the U.S. Department of Education sent a letter to the Maine Department of Education Monday advising a final deadline of April 11th to address the issue or risk another referral to the Department of Justice. The Department of Health and Human Services already referred Maine to the DOJ last week. Governor Janet Mills has not responded publicly to the USDA funding freeze. For Straight Arrow.
It's a harrowing discovery. Emergency teams dig up a mass grave holding the bodies of 15 aid workers in Gaza. The United Nations says they were killed just days earlier by Israel while working in the enclave. Authorities are now sounding the alarm.
Humanitarian workers are being killed in unprecedented numbers. According to available data, 2024 was the worst year on record, with 377 aid workers killed across 20 countries. This was almost 100 more fatalities than in 2023.
The UN's humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, has also expressed concern, calling for the killings to end. Among the bodies recovered from the grave in southern Rafah were members of the Palestine Red Crescent Society. Some belonged to the civil defense, while another was working for the UN.
These attacks are designed to prevent the UN from helping the most vulnerable and to prevent them from bearing witness. Impunity for attacks on humanitarian personnel has become the new normal, a pervasive normal, an accepted normal, one perpetuated not only by non-state actors, but also by governments and their proxies.
The attacks come as Israel expands its fresh ground assault on Gaza. Its complete blockade of humanitarian aid is also nearing the 1-month mark. Dozens killed across several villages in the Sudanese city of Omdurman at the hands of the Rapid Support Forces. That's according to the Emergency Lawyers Association. The humanitarian organization accuses the paramilitary group of killing at least 89 people and injuring many more after carrying out random artillery shelling and direct gunfire. Attacks that the Emergency Lawyers Association has slammed as a flagrant violation of human rights and international law. Many have been forced to escape the violence, fleeing to the Jabal Aliya area. It's further evacuations in a country already in the grips of the largest displacement crisis in the world. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, the RSF continues to suffer setbacks. Since the beginning of the year, the army has seized Sana'a, Al Jazeera and White Nile State, as well as the capital Khartoum, giving it control of the center of Sudan. Unabated by the army's advance, the RSF is now pushing to capture towns like Al Obed and the area of South Kordofan. The paramilitary's number 2, Abderrahim Dargo, also threatening to attack Northern State and Nile State. With most of Sudan now in its hands, regaining control of Darfur is the army's next target.
Mais nous venons pour notre revendication qui s'allie. Nous besoin de liberté, nous besoin de sécurité, nous besoin d'activité pour nous marcher, monter des seuls dans le côté de blé pour nous régler le pays.
Nous coups d'état de nous, et nous qui sommes nos pays. Nous ne marchons pas tout le monde, nous envoyer. Foutu au coup d'état de nous-mêmes. Foutu au coup d'état de nous. Foutu au coup d'état de nous. La caméra de nous. Le bloc de bas avec nous. Parce que c'est l'argent peuple qui a payé nous.
Now back to Trump's new tariffs. Let's get Peter Alexander back here, and he's going to bring us the latest.
This morning, a historic escalation with President Trump launching his largest tariffs yet. And overnight, many countries vowing to respond after the president took his trade fight to nearly every nation in the world.
It's our declaration of economic independence.
In a flag-draped Rose Garden ceremony, the president announcing an across-the-board minimum 10% tariff on all trading partners except Canada and Mexico that already pay more. The tax on imports affecting everything from clothing and computers to TVs and toys. The president also imposing additional reciprocal tariffs on dozens of countries the White House says are ripping the U.S. off most.
That means they do it to us and we do it to them. Very simple.
China now facing a staggering new 34% tariff on its goods, on top of a 20% tariff already levied, and a 20% import tax on all products from the European Union. Those new 25% tariffs on imported vehicles also now in effect. And the president also ending exceptions for taxes on cheaper goods mailed into the U.S. that could mean higher costs for fans of retailers like Shein and Temu. The White House saying it's targeting the drug trade from China. The Treasury Secretary yesterday urging other countries not to fight back.
Do not retaliate. Sit back. Take it in.
But overnight, China and the European Union warning they could take countermeasures against the United States. The president insisting his tariffs will return jobs and factories to American soil.
We will supercharge our domestic industrial base.
But many economists say the president's actions are certain to cost consumers. The Business Roundtable, made up of some of the top U.S. CEOs, warning the new tariffs risk causing major harm to American manufacturers, workers, families, and exporters. But some farmers believe short-term economic pain is worth it.
I don't think we do have a lot to lose. I think we only have something to gain.
La Secretaría de Economía va a entrar con un proceso. No hay aranceles adicionales, tampoco a Canadá, aunque en el caso de Canadá hacen algunas especificaciones. Y eso es bueno para el país. Y también pues de los temas de la industria automotriz y de la...
El tratado se mantiene. Eso es un logro mayor. No lo demos por sentado, porque en un nuevo orden comercial fundado en tarifas, es muy difícil que sobreviva un tratado de libre comercio.
El combate al narcotráfico y en el caso de México.
Dentro de todo este esquema, con sus dificultades, de todas maneras hay una situación preferencial para México, incluso así como estamos en la industria automotriz. Pero creemos que podemos tener todavía mejores condiciones. Y que lo que está fuera del tratado.
I'm Matt Cesny in Lake Park. From West Palm Beach to Stewart, I found a lot of differing opinions on these tariffs, what they might do to the economy and what they might do to the prices we pay.
It is what it is. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
And it's happening. The president's tariff plan now in high gear and shaking things up by imposing large tariffs or taxes on foreign companies.
I think that they need to be addressed. It's been a long time. We're out of whack with the rest of the world. They've taken advantage of us.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty radical move. I have a personal friend who's a Toyota dealer, so he's obviously not happy about it. We just only hope that maybe it's just a negotiation tactic.
Foreign cars are among the items expected to be hit hard with higher prices, along with other things like clothing. I met Giancarlo Treulzi, who says he owns 2 gelato shops that do rely on foreign products.
Again, I don't know to a certain extent because, you see tariffs go up, but then you see some businesses get like exempt here and there. Right. To the moment, we have seen no prices change. Okay. This might change, obviously.
Prices are on most minds, and most seem to agree they will go up.
With any change, there's going to be an interruption with the way things had been. I believe that once everything kind of settles down, I think it's going to be a really good thing.
It's clearly going to make things a lot more expensive for people and for businesses in general. It's going to obviously offset the cost to consumers.
Yeah, that's right, Lauren. We spoke with 2 business owners tonight that deal extensively with those imported goods and thus could be impacted by this latest announcement. They did say that they are hoping for the best and for a positive outcome to all this, but they acknowledge that at present, it's hard to imagine that they're not going to be passing along some of those costs to consumers.
I'm sure it is going to impact every product of it, basically what we do in restaurant and in the groceries.
Shari Kambara owns Bharat Cafe and Bharat Bazaar in West Cary. The overwhelming majority of the products he buys at both the restaurant and grocery store come from India, but he also buys from Mexico and Canada.
80 to 90% we get the stuff from India only, and especially all your groceries, oils, edible oils, dairy products.
Shari and his business partner Madhu met up with us Wednesday night, hours after President Trump's announcement of sweeping reciprocal tariffs with trading partners around the world.
Mustard oil, made in India.
Those tariffs were part of what the president called Liberation Day, an attempt to reduce a trade deficit that he referred to Wednesday as a national emergency. India, for example, would face a 26% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. effective next Wednesday. Chari says that could impact what his customers pay.
End of the day, what happens is, as a business owner, we have to pass the charges to the consumer, basically. But the end user, the consumer, is going to take a beating.
We also stopped by downtown Raleigh staple Vic's Italian restaurant, where owner Mario Longo says most of the ingredients and products he works with would be subject to the tax.
99% all Italian import. My wine comes from there. All my pasta, my sauce, stuff that coming from there, oil.
Vic's has been in Raleigh for 31 years, and Mario says he's proud to have kept prices steady for most of them. With recent inflation, he says that's already been a struggle. Tonight, he's just hoping a better solution can be found.
I hope so. Everything changed for the good for everyone. So yeah. I want to be here more years. I don't plan to get out of here.
Both Chari and Mario deal with direct imports. Those are items that they're buying themselves from overseas, and use U.S.-based vendors that buy those imports. But as you can imagine, they would then in turn pass those price hikes along to Chari and Mario. They said that they're just waiting and seeing at this point. Lauren?
And today I'm announcing that the Government of Canada will be responding by matching the U.S. approach, with 25% tariffs on all vehicles imported from the United States that are not compliant with CUSMA, our North American Free Trade Agreement. And on the non-Canadian content, of CUSMA-compliant vehicles from the United States as well. You know, we take these measures reluctantly, and we take them in ways that it's intended and will cause maximum impact in the United States and minimum impact here in Canada.
Yeah, those are probably the last smiles we saw on Wall Street today. The opening bell kicking off trading this morning. Stocks saw an over 1,000 point drop for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It was down 1,400s at one point. That was down 3%.
Yeah. S&P also down. We know that it was their worst start to the day since 2022. Companies like Apple are now reporting billions of dollars in lost market value as international currencies like the yen and the pound gain against the U.S. dollar.
Live look right now, 3.42% the Dow is down. We've seen a lot of red here today. This morning, the Trump administration insisting the stock market changes are temporary as a 10% tariff is set to hit the U.S. trading partner as well. Glad you're with us. It is 11:30 now on this Thursday. I'm Eric Connert.
And I'm Chris Groh. The president is also hitting dozens of countries with what he calls reciprocal tariffs and threats to increase them if countries respond with their own price hikes. The White House says this is a long-term plan to boost U.S. manufacturing and lower costs.
Experts say Americans will pay more for nearly everything with no real end in sight.
These changes in the stock market, while they're initial, long-term, you've got to assume, and medium-term, and employment-based, you're going to see America thrive.
Allies have tried to talk him out of it, but he really doesn't seem to understand that tariffs are paid by Americans.
China faces a 34% tariff. The EU faces a 20% reciprocal tariff. Canada and Mexico are exempt from new tariffs, but will likely face new ones next month. And these tariffs will significantly impact San Diego's cross-border economy.
Yeah, we're working for your wallet, taking a closer look, studying the issue, and looking at how new international policy impacts San Diego. CBS 8's Regina Rita live in Kearny Mesa, I should say, sharing how this should shake up some local businesses.
Yeah, Eric and Chris, well, this follows President Donald Trump's announcement on a series of tariffs, including a 25% tariff on imported cars. Now, here in Kearny Mesa, of course, we have many dealerships. I was actually talking to some of the employees at one of the dealerships. They said that in the past couple of weekends, they've had really good business because some of the consumers are trying to get this recent inventory before that tariff actually takes place. So as well as some of the restaurants and shops, we know that they use imported products. So you can imagine the concern that many business owners are feeling knowing that imported goods could get even more expensive. Economics professor Alan Jin gave some perspective on tariffs and why he and other economists are skeptical. He says the concept of made in America for America seems prosperous, but it will take time to actually see it play out. He says President Donald Trump has created too much uncertainty, and relocating takes time, if not years or even decades. So with rising prices, San Diego is sure to be impacted. Jin also adds that a tariff is a tax on imports. So if a tariff is placed on a product that's imported into the U.S., the importer will end up paying the tax to the U.S. government. And typically, these businesses pass the increase on to consumers. Now, the question that many San Diegans have is how quick people will start to see prices change at grocery stores or at certain businesses and car dealerships. Well, here's what else Professor Jin shared about San Diego businesses.
Food products like avocados, like strawberries, and things like that then are going to be more expensive. Things like tequila and Mexican beer are going to be more expensive as well.
And that's not all, but we also know that a 25% tariff on imported auto parts is also expected to take effect next month, so that could increase prices even higher. C'est important
que nous puissions nous retrouver le plus rapidement possible après les annonces de la nuit dernière du président Trump, qui sont un choc pour le commerce international, pas simplement pour l'Union européenne, la France, mais au fond pour le bon fonctionnement du commerce. C'est une ampleur qui est en tout cas inédite. Mais ce sur quoi je veux insister au début de cette réunion, c'est que l'ampleur et le caractère négatif est avant tout pour l'économie américaine. Et une chose est sûre, avec les décisions de cette nuit, l'économie américaine et les